What is the most effed up thing you did that still haunts you to this day? We had a camper in this large campground at a lake when I was growing up. Tons of families with kids riding bicycles and golf carts up and down the gravel roads through the property. There was this one kid that was a few years older than me. I was 10. He was probably 12 or so. Whose dad was the security guard and they lived on site, and he was the biggest punk in the park. He'd try and wrestle you in the pool, throw rocks at you as you were fishing, ride off on your bike if you left it laying around, bully and hit smaller kids, even girls. I was driving the golf cart down a pretty steep gravel hill one day when I came up on him on his bike, going the same way as me. He never turned around to acknowledge I was there, so I got up just to the side of him and turned hard right into him. We were both going probably 10-15 miles an hour down this hill. He took a nasty spill and rolled off the side of the road and wasn't moving. I kept on going, acting like nothing happened. We were completely isolated, so no one saw me. I remember him getting taken away in an ambulance and hearing that he'd been hurt pretty bad. I immediately felt remorse for what I'd done but never said a word to anyone. He or anyone else never had any idea I did it either. I look back now and think about how much of a financial strain I put on that family, seeing as how they were already living in a camper. That was a really evil thing I did, and it still crosses my mind quite often. When I was 17, my brother walked into a room where I was lying down on my back and stamped on my chest. I saw red and stood up and punched him square in the face. Unfortunately, this was in a doorway in front of a staircase, which he fell down backwards, and when he hit the wall at the bottom folded up in such a way I thought I'd killed him. He didn't move for what seemed like forever, and I was certain he was dead. The world just spinning out around me. He wasn't dead, obviously, but knocked out briefly, and he never laid a finger on me again. After being the kind of nasty bully who had spent much of my childhood just randomly beating on me for his own enjoyment, those were the longest seconds of my life. Hulk sees this as an absolute win. I didn't know it was effed up at the time because I was maybe 5, but I somehow still remember it. So you know the carnival horses you can sit on outside of grocery stores, back in the 90s? Well, I wanted to ride one, and this sweet old woman tried to help me get on, slipped, and really hurt herself falling into the ride. I just remember hearing her scream and I got scared and ran away. I'm 31 years old and think about that day at least once a week. I don't know about haunts, but it makes me cringe. In public school we had this thing in our school called Jumpstart for Kids, where you'd go around, often door to door, collecting money for this charity once a year. Anyway, I was 12 and I liked a boy in high school, and he convinced me to take the envelope and go door to door and collect money to give to him so he could buy a drum set. I walked around collecting from all these sweet people who told me I was so nice for collecting money for underprivileged kids. Fortunately, I got caught and my parents made me donate it instead. So embarrassing. We moved to a new house when I was 8. When an old friend called to ask if we could play together, I said sorry, I'm too busy playing with my new friends. Provincial Park, Peshawar, 12 years old. Line up to get in. Towards the end of my turn in the shower, get the urge to poop. Cannot hold it. Using a sock to smoosh the last of it down the drain. Water turns off. Out of quarters. Put a towel over my head. Run out of there past the lineup. Get back to the campsite. Immediately change clothes. Shoes, hairstyle. Put on a bull cap. Work up the courage to go by the area later on. It is all cordoned off. Hear people angrily discussing how someone took a dump in the shower. Smacked my stepsister across the face when I was watching her. She was 5, I was 17. I felt so bad afterwards and just profusely apologized. I was raised being abused, and the power I felt when I did that scared me to death. I have a child now and have never raised my hand to her. I had to break that cycle before it destroyed me. My psychotic depressive episode 5 years ago, where I drank laundry detergent, drank my own piss, assaulted a hospital worker and got restrained, bashed my head against a toilet in an attempt to break my skull while thinking I was completely normal and sane and didn't need to be in the psych ward, and the doctors were going to kick me out on the streets any day once they realized I was actually not sick. Psychotic depression is absolute hell, and I am so appalled at my behavior. It's not like you black out and forget what happens. I have to live with what I did every day. I'm only now just beginning to feel stable again. When I was in college, there was this girl my roommate was friends with. I didn't know her very well, but I did know she was a total pothead. I didn't take any issue with this, but I was very adamant that she not smoke in my dorm room as I didn't want to risk expulsion. Well, anyway, one day I came home from class and she was talking with my roommate, and she had the reddest eyes I've ever seen. Her voice is off and she's talking really slowly, and I'm mad. I'm in the middle of this speech about how I only had one rule and she couldn't even respect that. And then my roommate tells me that she isn't high. She had just finished crying because it was the anniversary of her mom's death. I was in a friend triangle in middle school where a girl I became friends with was super jealous. She manipulated me into writing absolutely violent, harassing, hate-filled notes to my other friend to prove my loyalty to her. Honestly, it was absolutely violent wrong of me to do, and I can't believe I was weak and gullible enough to do it. Had a babysitter who was a kind middle-aged woman with no kids of her own. Her only fault was that she kept referring to herself in the third person. One day 8-year-old me snapped at, told her to shut the hell up. She cried. I still feel bad about it 25 years later. When I worked at a movie theater, I would sometimes top off regular Coke with Diet because a little bit of Diet would eliminate the overabundance of fizz and allow me to finish filling the cup faster instead of waiting for the fizz suds to dissipate down. Was in the cab of my dad's Scania truck. He often used to let me ride along. Driving at night, must have been around 1 to 2 am. We're driving along at around 45 miles per hour on a pretty straight stretch of road. Couldn't see anything in front of us apart from the tarmac being lit up a small distance ahead by the headlights. We saw headlights approaching us in the opposite direction for the first time in what must have been an hour. I jokingly said, haha, finally another human. Then as it got within like 50 meters of passing us, a figure, probably a person, runs out in front of us and lays down horizontally in the middle of the road. Now, note that the other car is approaching fast. Because of this, we could not swerve into the other lane to avoid it, and it was too late to stop. Even though my dad had started braking, and to our right were hedges directly beside the road, so we couldn't swerve off the road either. My dad is now blaring the air horn and whispering, shh, get out the f***ing road, and I just told him, Dad, there's nothing we can do. Just drive. And a few seconds after I said that, we both felt a truck drive straight over it. I told me dad we had to stop and see if he's still alive. There was no chance, but he told me that he had heard things like this from his friend who is also a trucker. Apparently, vehicle robberies are often planned like this. Person lies in road. Vehicle stops. Gang pops out and hijacks vehicle. It wasn't my fault, but I still have a bit of guilt in the back of my mind that I was the reason why that person was dead. Because I told my dad to just keep driving. Although he was going to do that anyway, because what else could one have done in that situation? I will never forget that bump I felt as we ran them over. Note, we did call the police about the incident. My father was not charged with anything since we had a dashcam recording the whole thing. TLDR, ran a person over because there was nothing else we could do. I was at school and for no reason at all, I eavesdropped a very private and delicate conversation between one of my teachers and her husband. Then she opened the door and saw me eavesdropping. It was beyond humiliating and I deserved the scolding afterwards. I was young and stupid obviously, but when I remember the look on her face, I still cringe hard, even if it's been almost 20 years. When I was in school I used my deodorant in the bathroom to write a nasty message about a girl. I was jealous of her. She was pretty, nice, loved by everyone. I remember her finding out about it and asking why someone would do that because she was nice to everyone. When I was a child I was staying at a relative's house in a foreign to me country. I woke up in the middle of the night really needing to poop. The toilet was in the basement and the house was dark. I had no idea where the light switches were, so I found a plastic bag, pooped in it. I panicked and ended up going onto the balcony to clear my head. The only thing I could think of was to throw it as hard as I could. It ended up landing on the neighbor's metal roof. There it sat for the duration of my trip. Still haunts me 20 years later. The Olay Summertime Sizzler. Easy. When I was 5, I burned my house down. We were living in a small home. Me, my sister, mom, dad. I was supposed to be in the bed, but I wanted a toy or something that was under my bed, and I didn't want to wake my parents by turning on my light. So I grabbed my dad's cigarette lighter and lit the flame under my bed. Needless to say it went up like a match. My dad tried to stomp the fire out after I started screaming fire, burning his leg horribly. My room and the source of the fire was blocking every other bedroom from escape, so everyone had to jump out of a window. Funnily enough, I don't remember the world class A whipping I must have received for that. I just cringe at the thought that I almost killed all of us being a dumb kid.